Okay.
I'm only here for the party. Trust me, we're just getting started. The sound, the vibe. I feel so alive. You're only here for the party.
Ta-da! We're back again. I'm Gabby. No, actually, I'm not. I'm not Gabby. I'm still Alex. This upcoming session is actually pre-recorded because Gabby wanted to fly over to Birmingham to have the discussion in person, but both speakers are going to be in the chat answering your questions, and Shahbaz will actually also be in the lounge area hosting a table after the session for additional questions. So do look forward to that.
Thank you, Alex. Shall we jump in?
Let's do it.
Hey guys, welcome to our SuperSummit session on how to unlock e-com growth through creative testing. I'm Gabby from Supermetrics, and with me I have the wonderful Shahbaz from Venture Beyond. We recorded this session a couple of weeks ago on a very rainy Thursday in Birmingham, and that enables Shahbaz and I actually to be available online through chat with you right now. So as we go through this, if anything occurs to you or you have any questions to ask, reach out in chat and Shahbaz and I will be able to have a chat with you guys, which will be awesome. So Shahbaz, you are co-founder and CEO of Venture Beyond. Venture Beyond are one of our Supermetrics customers, and you guys came to our notice because of the amount of queries you are running on a monthly basis. Tell me about yourself, tell me about Venture Beyond, and where are all these queries coming from?
Yeah, I think you messaged us saying we're pulling 750 million rows of data, which is
It's a lot.
Insanely big number. So I'm CEO of Venture Beyond. We do growth marketing. So basically we grow e-commerce brands, direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands. We use data to basically inform our creative testing. We produce creative, we do the media buying, we do Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok, email, etc., etc. So we're kind of like full service based around whatever our clients need. The main thing is we use data to actually drive every single decision that we make.
Using Supermetrics, obviously.
Of course.
So you guys specialize in D2C and e-com. You're only 4 years old. You've grown hugely in the last 4 years with DTC. I think eMarketer says DTC is going to be 160 billion this year. Tell us about direct to consumer and why it's so different and why that makes what you guys do unique right now.
Yeah, I think the key difference between, I'd say, direct-to-consumer and brand marketers is brand marketers are not looking for an immediate conversion. It's more like a long-term play. It's more like what do people feel and think about the brand a year, 2 years down the line from now. With direct response, we get paid when we make sales. So basically, we have to drive revenue immediately, like now, today. We've got to hit targets every single month, every single week, every single day. So there's a whole different dynamic into how we operate. Overall, I'd say like the speed at which we operate has to be like super quick. Mm-hmm. So what I've noticed from looking at people who do brand and people who do performance, generally speaking, people who do performance are much more speed oriented.
How do you get that speed? Because I know, from being a marketer for a very long time myself, creative usually takes time. There are approval processes. But DTC is direct response, so it's what's happening now and reacting in real time.
It's kind of getting everyone aligned to a certain mindset, including the brand, if it's a client, or internally, if it's just a team. You've got to get aligned to this whole kind of like idea of speed is really important. You cannot wait 3 months to get a shoot done. You cannot wait for X rounds of approvals, second round of approvals, reshooting, etc., etc., etc. By that time, guess what? The competition has taken over and you've lost your potential edge. And also I tend to find the kind of content that people shoot for brand campaigns doesn't always resonate to what you need for performance. Mm-hmm. You want things that are a bit more product focused, things that kind of really call out features, benefits, pain points of the customer. And a lot of the kind of branded content that people produce isn't really kind of going to get you the cuts that you need to produce those ads that actually get you those direct and immediate sales.
I think you told me when we were having a chat earlier that for one of your clients, you're actually producing 1,000 unique pieces of creative a month.
Yeah.
That's a huge amount.
Yeah.
How are you making that work, and why is that scale required to drive the growth?
Yeah, generally, I'll cut to a graph and we can have a look at it. So as you can see, this is a particular brand we did a study on. This is one that was spending 4 million a month at its peak. And you can see the number of ads launched tracks very closely to the amount that they made in revenue. The whole principle here is, and you'll see in the second chart, there's a quite strong correlation between number of ads launched and revenue that you make. And the whole thing is you're trying to produce as much creative as you can, as quick as you can, to get the insights back as to what is working, to then go and make more stuff. If you're waiting 3 months for a shoot to come back and then you're launching a campaign and hoping for the best and then waiting another 3 months, the speed is just not anywhere near fast enough. And that's why we end up producing so much creative. And on average, the success rate in our industry and just our success rate is typically between 5, maybe 8% of creators actually spend any money and do any revenue. So to get ones that win and overall have like a strong growth, you've got to have a lot of testing.
And what are the mistakes people are making right now?
Taking too long in approval, being too precious about like using a model over a content creator, not using the data to actually inform what happens next, trusting their gut too much. Like I've had my ego hurt so many times by the fact that I thought that a creative was going to win. I came into this whole industry thinking, oh, that type of creative is definitely going to win. And it looks beautiful, it looks amazing, from a branded point of view. And then you come to launch it and you're like, oh, wow, that didn't do anything. It had 0.0 impact and nobody saw it. So then it's a lot of effort for like no reward. So you've got to really kind of fine tune your efforts to being towards what is actually going to drive sales. So it's using that kind of, people are not using the data enough to inform their decisions and they're not being fast enough to enact what they find from the data. And one of the key problems is like your data teams and your media buyers and your analytics people are very opposite in the way that they think to your creative teams, your video editors, your producers, your directors. They just have a different way of thinking and often like the heads butt right. So you've got to have a way where, and we have this creative strategist role that kind of sits in between those two different teams that really pulls those pieces together so they can help talk each other's language.
And I think very often our customers use data as that language that unifies those groups. You've also mentioned creative strategists. So the data and the creative strategist, how do they bring this group of people together and make sure everyone is going in the same direction?
Yeah, so I think the key skill set of a creative strategist for me is like understanding the data, but then also understanding the consumer psychology, understanding what is making them tick. So our creative strategists, they're sat there going through Reddit, reading comments about their customer avatar. They're going through reviews, checking out what everybody is saying. They're going on ad comments to see how people are commenting and responding to ads, both of ours and our competitors. So the whole idea is the creative strategist is a marketer. They really understand the psyche, the demographic of the customer. And then they're connecting that to the data and what the data is telling them. So they're working in sync with our media buyers to say, okay, this is what the data is telling me, this is what I'm going to produce. And then overall they project manage the execution of the creative as well. So they're the ones who kind of really dictate the priority and the execution and what gets done.
So they're using the data to join together the art and science of direct response.
Basically,
essentially.
yeah.
So Shahbaz, let's talk about creative fatigue. How important is a solution like yours to overcome that creative fatigue that obviously impacts the 5 to 8% success rate?
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing around producing volume creative. One is because your success rate is low, so you have to produce a lot to get a winner. But the other thing is ads don't last long. I've got a chart that I'll actually show you. So this brand is spending around about 2 million a month. The typical pattern is in month 1, the percentage of spend share is actually kind of like lower, and then it peaks out around month 2, and then it dips down month 3, and then by month 4, the average spend is mostly gone. There is a legacy effect where like I always think about it's the area under the curve rather than just necessarily that data point. I'm always trying to think ahead of like, okay, how much creative do we need to produce? And it's often a question I get answered, and it isn't always 1,000 a month. It depends on the situation of the brand.
And I was just going to say, is it different for different brands?
The way I like to answer this question is, because I always say do as much as you can.
Yeah.
But the truth is we can only do so much. So like I try to reverse the answer and I say, okay, how much resource do you have access to right now? Like, what does your creative team look like? How many editors, copywriters, designers, post-production managers, how many people have you got access to? Right, now let's break down how much can they produce in a day? How much can they produce in a week? Now let's work out how much creative we can produce off the back of that. If you also amplify that with AI tools, good best practice, etc., etc. So the way I answer this question is like, it's not a number. It's like, let's work out how much you can produce right now. Let's build efficiencies into your current resources. Once we've built efficiencies into your current resources, then we'll add additional people on top. There's no point in adding people to an inefficient process.
Yeah.
So bring your cost of production down, bring your success rate up, then start to add people in. As the team gets bigger, your nodes of communication increase exponentially. So you really got to think about how to structure your teams in the right layout. And I'm happy to share like one org chart that we've got that shows how we overall structure the different teams, which I can share to you guys in the chat.
So let's get right down to the detail here. Again, having a chat earlier, you told me your process is 7 days to get an ad into market, which seems for consumer ads very, very fast, especially at this scale. Talk us through how you guys do that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like 7 days is too slow. I'm trying to compress it down. Every single quarter, one of our goals is to get it down and down and down. I'd love to get it to 3 days or 2 days. The thing that ends up taking the longest is actually the approval process. But I can talk you through the steps if you like, the stages, and unpack each stage in a bit more depth.
Let's do that. But before we do that, let's talk about the approval process, because it can be a bottleneck for a lot of getting creative into market. How have brands approached, the companies you work with, approached your approach in terms of approving fast?
It's painful at the beginning. I won't lie. Right at the start, we've got to convince people that they've got to be fast. A lot of clients will want to approve things twice a month or once a week. I'm like, no, you need to approve this every day. If you want ads to be launched and them to be based off an insight that was working yesterday, we had an ad that spent and made revenue yesterday, you've got to approve today if we're making an iteration. So it's just getting them into that mindset of like, we've got to approve fast. And usually on the client side, we'll always have one person dedicated to approvals, and it's up to them how they get it driven through, but they absolutely have to get things driven through on their side. So that's absolutely key. I think one of the things that's helped us is we built our own kind of process and software that kind of connects it together. So the software that we built bespoke for ourselves actually enables them to do the approvals all within the Work OS. It's a Work OS and approval software all built together.
So let's have a look at the process, because I think people will be really interested in that. And when we were chatting earlier, it's very agile and uses a lot of the same kind of phrases and procedures from the development agile process.
Yeah, I mean, it's been inspired completely by agile, really. We typically have a 2-week sprint period in which everything gets delivered. And we have the first stage, and I mean, we can bring this up on screen as we're talking about it, is the ideation stage. So here we're capturing ideas, and then a creative strategist basically is in charge of capturing all the ideas, logging them, maybe putting an inspiration image or file next to each particular idea. And they'll write a hypothesis against this idea. So there'll be a reason why they will think this idea will work. So they'll always have some kind of an insight, either from a competitor, from what a consumer has said, or what has worked in the past. And we split these into new concepts and iterations. So it's either an iteration of an existing ad that we've made where we're trying to improve it. So for example, we've got a cool ad, it's doing some performance, but the hook rate at the beginning is too small. We think we can improve that. So there we will change the hook on an existing ad. Or maybe it's the second or third frame, and we can see there's a sharp drop off in the view rate on an ad. And so we'll go in and swap that segment out. So that might be like an iterative concept that we capture. The other type is we just got a brand new idea that we've got and we want to just test it. And we try and split things half-half between iterations and new concepts.
It's going to be my next question. Yeah. What is the split? So
there's never like a perfect balance, but I'd say generally speaking, iterations always perform better than new concepts, because you launch one ad that works, you'll only get so much yield out of it. So the whole idea is there was something there that was working. So just keep improving it, keep adapting it. And usually one ad turns into hundreds and hundreds of ads, which actually overall in total make, the millions in revenue. You can't depend on one ad to do it. We do have breakout ads that end up doing hundreds of thousands in sales, but honestly, you can't predict your revenue around that.
Which is why you have to use the data.
You have to use the data, yeah.
So let's keep going on the process.
Yeah, so we capture the idea, we create a hypothesis, we then we sit down, we have an ad planning meeting, and we prioritize. So we might have 20 ideas or 10 ideas or 15 ideas. We kind of narrow that down to the best 5 or 10 that we want to work on in a particular sprint. Each idea actually gets built into several variations. I'll give an example. When we launch one idea, it's basically one ad set. So within that one idea, we have 4 to 6 variations. So each variation might be we're swapping a bit of copy or we're swapping an image. You'll have an ad plan that's basically got maybe 10 ideas. And within each idea, you've got a set of variations. So the team will sit together, agree on that. We'll then present usually to a client to get their buy-in. And then once that's done, the next step in the process is we actually go to briefing. Yeah. So this is where we brief and we built this all into our own like custom process and system, because we were using Monday.com for ages, and I've got all the love in the world for Monday.com, but we broke it pretty quick because we did so much automation and scripts and things to make it work in the background, and we couldn't do it anymore. So we ended up building our own custom software. So we do our briefing in there. We write a hypothesis. We write a full instruction for the video editor, usually in a storyboard format.
Yeah.
Well, we do open and closed briefs, which I can talk about in a second. But and we do image briefs with layouts. And then once a brief has been written, the copy goes to compliance to check, that we're saying things that we can say, claims we can make about the brand. And then we have an auto ad naming convention, which actually is a key part of what we use to get creative data back out of Supermetrics. You get the on-platform data that comes back, so you get all of our CPC, CPMs, like click-through rates, etc. But what we actually do is we name our ads in a very particular way. We have parameter underscore parameter underscore parameter. And what this allows us to do is to break down all of those into a table when we pull the data and actually extract what was happening in that creative. So as an example, we'll have, and I'm happy to share our naming convention with anybody afterwards or in the chat, just ask and I'll give it to you guys. We have like the product underscore, what offer we are running underscore, which content creator underscore. There's a whole set of parameters that we actually analyze. So if we're using that, we can actually cohort or subset our data. We subset our data and look at it and we're like, okay, why was this? Is this the factor that was actually making these ads win?
Yeah.
Like what was the element that actually contributed to the success of this particular ad? So we actually have to do that naming ourselves. We've automated it in our own software. So we have a way where as the brief gets filled in, it populates the ad name and then that goes into the ad account. Then it comes back through Supermetrics into a sheet, and then from the sheet goes into our dashboards and things like that. So that's the briefing segment.
And let's definitely share that naming structure because I think people will be really interested in it.
No problem. I'm happy to share any of this process, whatever you want.
Great. Data governance is a big topic for many of our customers. So let's share that after this.
Yeah. So next stage is you go to editing. So this is where post-production happens. So work gets allocated to a specific editor who's free, who's capable to do that type of edit. If they need motion graphics experience, they'll go to somebody who's got that. If it's somebody who's more of a graphic designer, we lean that way. Our team is typically comprised 70-80% video editors and 20-30% graphic designers, only because graphics are quicker and faster to produce. You need less people to produce the same number of creatives. What we end up actually launching is around about half between videos and images. So the videos actually cost us more to make. And generally the images actually perform better.
Yeah.
So like there's a bit of a balance there to actually get the resource allocated effectively. It goes through post-production. Next stage after that, it goes through approvals, which is like my biggest bugbear of like trying to get things fast. We have an internal approval process. So you've got a creative strategist who basically looks at the ad after it's been produced, looks at it and says, okay, did this hit my brief? Sends it back to the editor. No, I don't like it. Yes, I did like it. I target the team to only have like one revision in total. Across internal revisions and external revisions. It's quite hard to get that on average, but that's what we do target. Some things fly straight through, other things go through 5-6 rounds. You're like, why did I even start this? But yeah, so it goes through an internal approval process first with our team. Then it goes to our compliance team. They check the copy to make sure it's on point with what we can say. And then finally it goes to the client. And usually that's the slowest part in the process. And like I said, I'm always trying to convince them to go faster and faster. But they then sign off the ad, comes back to us. We then launch it into the ad account and using that automatic naming convention.
So 7 days to get to that point. And at that point, the ad is out in the world and consumers are reacting to it.
Yep.
What happens then?
Yeah, and I'd even caveat, by the way, within that 7 days, like most of that time is stuck in approvals. So like the actual time to produce things is a lot less.
It could be faster.
It could definitely be faster than that. So I'm constantly trying to optimize this process and put clients on SLAs to actually improve their internal review time. But sometimes I win the battle, sometimes I don't. And then the final step is the conclusion. So here you're basically looking at the data of what happened, looking at the ad and looking at what actually happened. So you're looking at all the different creative metrics. You're looking at, like I mentioned about subsetting the data to understand which aspect of this ad actually made it work and perform. And from that, you're drawing a conclusion against that original hypothesis that you wrote during the briefing stage. And then from that, you document your learnings. And then I'm always asking the team to actually share their learnings internally with everybody else. That's within the client account itself and also across clients, because we find that sometimes we get a winning concept over here, we just copy and paste it over here, and it does work. The overall concept works with a different product and kind of brand image.
So where Supermetrics comes in is really in the conclusion phase, where you're looking at that data with all the different cuts to figure out what's worked.
There's 3 places overall that we use the data we get from Supermetrics. One is for internal reporting. So this is where we're discussing things internally, making charts, making graphs, try to understand what the data is telling us to make our next decision. The second place is we actually have dashboards that we make. So we make dashboards that we then present to clients. So they'll go into a deck or we'll screenshot or screen share and show a client. And then the third place is really in our media buying process. So this is actually what you guys call the activation. It's like putting the data back into the system and letting it optimize the media buying process. So in the past, we did use Google Analytics data to automate part of our ad buying decisions. So if a particular ad hit a certain threshold in what GA and Facebook said, we would scale the ad. We'd change the budget, change the bids. In an automated way, 24/7. We've got logic in the background that does this for us in a software. More recently, what we do is we use Shopify data from Supermetrics to actually create a fail-safe. So for example, if the amount of sales in a particular hour is significantly less than we're expecting, there's probably a bug in Facebook, and that's happened in the past where we've spent 50K in an hour or two.
I think it's happened to all of us.
It's definitely happened. We did get a refund on some of the money, but it's always a bit of a panic when that happens. So Shopify basically gives us that data, and we can cut ads immediately if we see there's something outside of the expected thresholds of what we expect to happen.
This is a process that you've obviously honed over the last 4 years and is now really working for you guys, and more importantly, driving growth for your clients. If we have somebody listening who wants to start on this journey, what should their first step be?
I always kind of like to zoom out first when I first work with a client. I like to think about the traditional 4 P's of marketing, which we laugh about in the office because it's kind of a bit old school, but it does work. You've got your product, so you've got to think about which product do I want to focus on first in my range. Don't try and promote everything. Just ignore the stuff that doesn't work, that's not profitable. Just focus on the stuff that you really want to push because it's shown profit and shown sales. So focus on that first, right? Get that honed in. Second thing is your offer and your price. So those things are kind of combined. Make sure your price is competitive against what your competition is doing. There's no point in launching ads similar to your competitors, but their price is half or like 20% or 30% less. You're always going to struggle. And have a good offer that's going to compel people to purchase. So like you might do a bundle or a kit that is only available online through your online store. Or you might have something based on urgency or scarcity, having like a specific time of the year where you have a sale and you have a cutoff. And the final thing is, choose the people, right? Choose the avatar that you want to target. Once you've got those pieces together, you've got your product, you've got your offer, who you're going to be targeting first, you then start to build your creative testing plan. So I'd say sit down with Reddit, sit down with your ad comments, sit down with your reviews, read these for a day, 2 days, 3 days, just go head deep into this stuff. I like to use Miro, I just map all this stuff out on there. And you want to review your customers' ad libraries to see what they're up to, what's working for them, what's been running the longest. And you want to kind of look at what they're doing, what you've learned about your consumer, choose your product, your offer, and your avatar. Put all those things together to make your first ad plan. Come up with 5 to 10 concepts. And within each concept, have a few variations of things you're going to test. Start with that, produce that first, and then from there, go through this process of and it's a never-ending process. It's not something I've drawn it linear, like left to right, but it's not. It's a circle. This thing just keeps going round and round, and the faster you can make it go round, the more money you're going to make.
And I think that circle, the 360, is super important because it's put the stuff out into the world. Look at the data, use the data to drive your next action, put the stuff out into the world, look at the data, use the data to drive the next action, and it goes around and around.
Exactly.
So I don't think we can talk about creative in 2024 without talking about technology and AI. Are the new tools helping you do this as fast as you?
I think the other day we actually did analysis. We have about 60 pieces of software running our entire marketing effort, and I think probably about 7 or 8, maybe even 9 of them are AI tools.
Yeah.
We've been using AI to produce, we've done in excess of 10 to 20 million at least, I'd say, probably in that range of revenue with ads made using AI. I can give you a quick summary of the stuff that we use. So we've been using Midjourney from the beginning when it was launched to produce all kinds of statics. We use Photoshop Generative Fill to kind of then take parts of the static and do things to it. We use Flux Laura, which actually gives much more realistic faces than what Midjourney does. So if we're trying to produce faces, that's what we use. We use 11 Labs to do voiceovers. Sometimes we train a voice based on what a content creator has, content they've given us, and we use that to train a voice that then gets put into a script that's used as a voiceover. We use ArcAds to actually make content creators move their mouth and say things with their sign-off that we want them to say, and that's quite a very quick way of producing. There's a whole raft of things that we use, and it's always changing. I'd say like have somebody in your team who's dedicated towards researching AI tools. So we have somebody who literally sits there, looks at tools, tests them out, produces ads. If it works, they then get the rest of the team to do it. They train the team on how to do it. And I think that's literally the most important thing right now to get on, because the cost of production is coming down and down and down, and it enables us to produce volume at speed. And if you're not adapting to using this AI technology, that you need to be. And people who are like traditionally, let's say, brand-focused brand marketers get really concerned about this kind of stuff. But I think there's a way of doing it where you can achieve the brand aesthetic without, compromise and still get that speed.
And I think even in my own network, I've come across brand marketers who are still a little, it's not going to be good enough. But I think testing again is the thing. Don't take that on face value. Test it and find out. There's so much potential.
One of our mantras is literally in our values is test it and see.
Yeah.
We'll have a battle internally. No, I think I'm right. No, I think I'm right. No, you know what? Just test it.
And I think when the industry standard for creative is between 5 and 8% works, you have to test.
You do, yeah.
So Shahbaz, thanks so much for coming today and talking us through how you guys are actually using both creative and data to do this at scale and to drive growth. And I think if I was going to take anything away from today, it would be creative data activation, creative data activation, creative. I'll just keep doing it.
Yep, that's pretty accurate.
Guys, Shahbaz is actually going to be in a lounge right after this session. He will be available to answer questions. I know he's likely to give some stuff away, like some of his templates or show you some graphs. So I would definitely catch him when he's there and go and have a chat. And Shahbaz, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today. It was great to hear about your success and the success you're driving for your clients.
It's been a pleasure, thank you.
Great. So back to Jess and Alex. God, that's exhausting.
I feel like I talk like a machine gun to get all the points across.
I might finish it with the high five.
You should.
Here we go.
We were there, now we're back.
Slap five, now we're back.
High five too.
Oh my goodness. Hello, welcome back. Wow, the chat was exploding during that session. That is absolutely incredible. Big thanks to Shahbaz and Gabby for that session. It obviously was very impactful from all of the conversations in the chat.
Yeah.
Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that to be a typical use case from the powering your creative testing like this with Supermetrics?
Well, yeah, I mean it's one we're seeing more and more, especially in the age of creative, but I'd still say it's somewhat unique. I don't think a lot of people realize that they can scale their creative testing and power that with Supermetrics in this way. So actually it was really good stuff from Shahbaz and Gabby.
I always kind of love when customers give us things that they're doing with their product that are kind of new and amazing.
Love it.
But for me, what really stood out about this was that you need thousands of creative tests to actually make a significant statistical difference in your revenue growth, which I mean that is unbelievable in itself. But even to hear that as a marketer, it's sometimes I guess overwhelming, when you feel like that's what you need to do to see some of this growth. But it is actually really empowering that we work with partners like Venture Beyond who are not only practicing this, but they're actually driving millions in growth for their clients.
100%. And like we mentioned in the beginning, and like Gabby mentioned there during the session, Shahbaz is actually in the lounge now hosting a table. So be sure to check that out if you want to chat with the man himself about creative testing. Obviously, who's there active in the chat. So thank you very much for that, Shahbaz. And of course, like mentioned earlier, the Supermetrics community is also a great place to go and share insights that you guys have on creative testing. So be sure to head over there at some point if you want to also participate in that raffle.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments already on feedback about the session, so definitely excited to see that. Well, keeping on the marketing measuring talk track, are you ready for my actual fun fact? I know I threw the last one on you, but my real fun fact.
I thought that they didn't actually give you fun facts.
Did you think these things were blank?
Yeah,
they just gave me blank cards.
Honestly, did. I thought I was the only one.
What are you? This is it. I didn't even know. Okay, let me just get to the right one. Before I give you the wrong fun fact. Okay, so
they're all fun, though.
They're all fun. According to our original research that we're publishing early next year, which is going to be absolutely incredible, nearly 50% of marketers say that marketing efficiency is the number one thing they're measured on. However, 50% reported that understanding the efficiency is their number one challenge.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I guess, my takeaway kind of sounds like proving ROI is the main challenge. Is that kind of a fair takeaway?
Very fair, spot on. Even if you improved efficiencies in marketing, if you don't know how or why, managing your budgets, proving ROI, it's still nearly impossible to do.
Exactly. And we're curious to know, and we're heading into our next session, which is going to be very relevant here, but curious to know, you all in the audience, what do you think? Do you agree? Is measuring marketing efficiency important to you? Is that a challenge? What are the main things that you measure? So please put those in chat. I think actually you can put them throughout the next session because we're right there. We should probably head in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are going to love this next session. We actually have two experts that we're bringing in to talk about modern marketing measurement. I told myself I was going to get that one right.
Keep a tally of how many times we botch some words, please.
Let's jump in.
Okay.
I'm only here for the party. Trust me, we're just getting